Hey, what's up? All my true funk soldiers, club funketeers around the world. This is your host of Funk from the Front Seat, number 9 right here, come to you from the funk universe that I live in. Check this out, man. Smash that like button for Funk from the Front Seat, and please subscribe. We're on every Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. West Coast time. Don't forget, man, Funk from the Front Seat, 9 on the Grind TV. Smash that like button and please subscribe, man. We need it all to come together. Peace, love, and harmony, y'all. Our side for us and tell us a little bit about the writing process and the song itself.
Yeah, so I that song I think has a really like important message to it. I wrote it in 2020 kind of in response to all the George Floyd protests,
Yeah.
and I felt very like helpless, and like I wanted to like do something about it, and like the only thing I can do is make music. So that was kind of me getting out my frustration and putting on paper how I felt about that. And I tried to make it universal enough to where it can be true for a lot of different scenarios. And it
Oh, yeah.
has
Yes,
ranked
it is.
true for a lot of different things throughout
Even
the
today.
years.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, so in like that mixtape that I told you about, I did that as like a I wanted to fundraise for the somehow. And so I made this album and I was like, all the proceeds from this album are going to the Minnesota Freedom Fund at the time. So whatever we made on Bandcamp and stuff, I sent there. Wasn't a ton of money, but it was more, I'm glad that I got to say how I felt about that through music. And Our Side was also written during that time. And it kind of is about just kind of being frustrated with the state of things and how the people who are supposed to protect us don't do that, and in fact are the ones that hurt us the most sometimes. And but at the same time, I think it's really important to have hope for the future, and not just let all of that bog you down, because that's exactly what those people want to happen, is for us to lose hope. And so maintaining that, and even through the frustration of it all.
You said in terms of other communities being able to come together and things being smooth, what is preventing us from coming together? And clarify that for me.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
one.
Like in other words, I know we're together, but a lot of times it's misinformation. Perfect example, right? Like when I find out there's something going on, usually it's usually word of mouth, and it's not put out there to where I could tell other people about it. I usually find out that same day, or Mark will tell me. It seems like we're not communicating. Seems like things are happening, but we're just not communicating in a way to where everybody is like, okay, this Thursday, I need everybody over here. Or this Friday, I need everybody over here because this is affecting our entire community. Because when I was coming to the event I saw you at, I was telling people about it, and they was like, "Well, I didn't hear anything about it." That kind of thing. And I don't know if it's social media. I'm just curious.
So I think it's action. It's choice. Is choice and action.
When we think about music today, and we have these discussions, because I'm an OG like yourself, digital, and I use a lot some digital stuff, but not a lot. But I do digital because I like the farm stuff found in my music, and they send it back. But you know, there's something about playing real live music as opposed to one guy or two guys just sitting down and just like computerizing it, and not to take away from their skill, but it's gone too far to the other side, I believe. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. As a musician, in the beginning, I hated it. But Craig Lang, my original keyboard player, he's Mr. Groove for One Way right now. And Craig is the one that made me change. He said, "Lonnie, that computer stuff is the best bandmate you're ever gonna have. You only have to pay for it once. They never late, they never miss a beat, and they consistent. When you start to consider the computer like a faithful band member, it's easier to work with. Craig gave me that concept, and I believe him because I was knocking people to play with tracks. I had to ask other musicians, you think you can just get on and play drums on the track and lock it? So I'm adapting it, man, because it's the future. We can take it like this. When they invented a car, and the people who was in the horse and wagons talking about that car stuff wouldn't work. Just think if everybody would have stayed there.
And like I said, again, this pops in the middle of this stuff, and it really makes you think, like, what would Linda? What do you think? How do you think Martin Luther King or Malcolm X would react to um, us as a people treating each other so badly?
Well, Martin would be out there protesting.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Malcolm would probably be on his soapbox,
Mhm.
trying to get people to straighten up.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I
And
can I see them both dealing with it in different ways.
No,
yeah,
definitely. Hey, Zach, just in that same realm, and I think I told you this before, that maybe 10 years or a few years after his assassination, there was a book that Martin wrote called Chaos or Community. It was basically where
yeah,
we come from now, chaos or community. And I had to write an essay in order to go to a journalism camp as a teenager, about the age of my nephews and everything. And I remember literally writing what King would be doing and all in that space. And I said that he would still be fighting against poverty. He would still be fighting against homelessness. He would still be fighting against the wage disparity and a number of other things. And the scary thing is that I wrote that in 1979 because I would have been a teenager in 1979, and that would have been like almost a decade after his death. And we're talking 2025, and I still think that he would still be dealing with those same issues some several years later. So to answer your question that you asked, Linda, I feel that he would be frustrated because he'd be going like, we haven't come as far as we should have.
when it comes to music, how do we pursue a spiritual lifestyle and still, maintain and navigate the darkness that's out there? We're going to cover a lot today, so y'all got to strap in because me and this woman was on the phone last night for like an hour and 45 minutes or something. It was a while. We got some stuff, so we're going to go strap in, take notes.
How to maintain a spiritual lifestyle in the music industry. Is that what you mean?
Yes, yes.
It's not being proven. Again, I'm new to the secular music, but even in the gospel arena, there are snakes and people with agendas, etc., etc. How to maintain it? You better maintain some people say prayer life. It's usually to activate you because for a time like this, they gonna fight tooth and nail they're fighting tooth and nail to keep age of Aquarius from coming to fruition. And the 144,000, because there's only 144,000 of us on this whole planet of billions.
Yep.
You a light worker. Get on mission.
I actually have been connecting with my family and friends more because I just got engaged. So
Congratulations, I saw that.
thank you. Here it is. So been kind of reconnecting with people I haven't talked with in a while and
Good for you.
making plans and
Yeah.
everyone's been so supportive, so we really appreciate that.
Hey, that's what's up, man. It's like and I'm, a child of divorce and I was divorced, but when I was married, I was really happy for 15 years. So marriage is great. And I think anybody that can find that right person to be with should just be with them. It shouldn't even be a question of anybody's whatever. You know what I'm saying? It should be like, hey, we love each other. Boom, let's do this. And good for you. I'm happy I told you, I'm your big bro. So ain't nobody, now you got a whole army behind you now. Because you got all my big bros, so you got a full-fledged army behind you.
That's sweet. Thank you.
That's dope, man. When is the wedding?
I don't know yet. I'm hoping for next fall, but you know,
Okay.
I'm not. I feel like out how to. I think there's this culture around weddings where it
Yeah.
becomes about everybody else, and I don't subscribe to that, and I don't want it to become that. I really just want it to be fun and cozy and easy and just good vibes. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not in a rush. I don't want to be stressed about it. I just want it to be fun. So
Yeah.
I'm
As it
hope
should
I
be.
love the fall. I love the colors of the leaves and stuff, and that's kind of like
Nah, man. I can't wait to get off this planet,
But
bro.
you don't want to do the deep freeze. That's what cryogenics is the
Because
deep
here's my theory, just for me.
right?
Between the Matrix, the Earth being in a dome, the Earth being flat, the interdimensional beings that travel in and out. There's so many things that I just want to get to metaphysically that I can't do in this physical body, but I can do in the spiritual world.
Right.
So now I watched this doc the other day, right? This is really deep. And the dude was explaining why we're in a dome.
We're in a dome. We're not on the Earth. We're actually there's a dome above us.
Yeah, we're in some kind of, there's like, in other words, everything we see with the rockets always going on the arc and this and that is he said we're in the dome. It's a simulation, you know, and it has a lot to do with our how we see our um, mental, well, not mental, but our spiritual self.
Well,
When we think about music today, and we have these discussions, because I'm an OG like yourself, digital, and I use a lot some digital stuff, but not a lot. But I do digital because I like the farm stuff found in my music, and they send it back. But you know, there's something about playing real live music as opposed to one guy or two guys just sitting down and just like computerizing it, and not to take away from their skill, but it's gone too far to the other side, I believe. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. As a musician, in the beginning, I hated it. But Craig Lang, my original keyboard player, he's Mr. Groove for One Way right now. And Craig is the one that made me change. He said, Lonnie, that computer stuff is the best bandmate you're ever going to have. You only have to pay for it once. They never late. They never miss a beat, and they're consistent. When you start to consider the computer like a faithful band member, it's easier to work with. Craig gave me that concept, and I believe him because I was knocking people to play with tracks. I had to ask other musicians, you think you can just get on and play drums on the track and lock it? So I'm adapting it, man, because it's the future. We can take it like this. When they invented a car, and the people who was in the horse and wagons talking about that car stuff wouldn't work. Just think if everybody would have stayed there.
Well, I can put it to you this way. Kendrick Lamar said everything's going, as did Bob Marley. Both of them said everything's going to be all right in their own way. And we know this. And as long as we stay focused that way, we ain't got no business worrying about anything else. We need to be about us, for us. FUBU, who we talking about? FUBU, for us, by us. And most importantly, we need to fortify ourselves with our Blackness, our African heritage. We need to be instilling all of that love and understanding of our history and culture in our youth and in ourselves. So I'm all about teach one, reach one.
These ladies of funk and that R&B funk style, I'm telling you, the music wouldn't be the same. Just wouldn't be the same. So, we need to shout them out. And the ladies that's doing it now, like, my girl LL, like Amuka, like all the ladies that's out there now, Shirley Clinton, all the ones that are doing it, still doing it to represent those ladies, we need to lift them up.
Creative. And that's why I felt like I was dying, because I wasn't creating.
Yeah.
So I slowly but surely started rolling back into creativity. And of course, I started off with the writing, because that was something that I could do and still manage the household the way I needed to manage it. So I started back with the writing and the writing, writing plays for my church at the time, did a couple of powerful plays. One that got me crucified because it dealt with a young boy whose mother, it was a single mom household, and she would have to go on the road for her job. And she was leaving her 13-year-old son with her brother. Unbeknownst to her, her brother was abusing his nephew. And so on opening night, when I tell you droves of people got up and left after the first controversial scene and everything. And my pastor pulled me to the side afterwards and said, "You offended pastors. You did this. You did that." Da, 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 da. And, I came home in a funk. I was pregnant with my 5th child at the time. And I just practically laid on the couch for days, unable to move, because I knew that God had given me this message in this play.
Right.
So when I finally got myself together and went back to church, I walked through the door and this young man that I knew came to me and said, "I need to thank you because of what I saw in your play. I was able to go to my brother's grave and forgive him for what he did to me."
Yeah.
Zach, I was like, oh my God.
All those little things that happen to musicians that really, ironically, what we're talking about.
Right, that's the leading. Go for it. Go for
Yes.
it. Go for it.
Affect your health. So I came to discover depression and anything else that can harm you emotionally, gives you thoughts of just like, what is the point of wanting to be here? Now, I've never been suicidal, but I have had deep moments of resignation. It's like, you know what? If the good Lord were to take me right now, I wouldn't care. But for me to climb again, I realized that I had to do music for the love of it and without expectation. Now, that in itself is healing.
I'd like to give a shout out to Curtis Wilcox, you know what I'm saying? Victor Taylor, Lisa Love. Y'all, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Y'all inspired me as well. Brother, you cold with the artwork, no doubt. No doubt about that. I like to give a shout out to my family here, my wife, my children. You know what I'm saying? Most of all, the ancestors. Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that trail that led me here. Always follow your dreams, you know what I'm saying? And your plans to be successful, especially in the line of music, you know what I'm saying? Don't have no doubt. Don't never give up. Don't give up at all. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if it took you about 50 years or 40 years or 30 years to get it. When your time is your time, your time is your time.
This is why connecting our health and, I stopped eating about like 6-7 months ago. I tried to curb it. And then about 3 months ago, I realized, okay, I can't eat anything after 9 o'clock, after sundown. Because what I did is I took a trip back to my ancestors. And I said, okay, if this was the 1700s, 1800s, whatever, right? Once the sun went down, unless you was on guard duty or something, everything was pretty much shut down. You didn't get up and go no midnight snacks and, I'm going to eat a rabbit. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't work that way. But your body system was regulated more normally,
Yeah.
and you, like you said before so eloquently, much more grounded. And I'm trying to get everybody around me to help me stay grounded so I can help them stay grounded. You know what I mean? Because
Here's
it's
a
very
good way to ground yourself.
Yeah.
Go outside, put your feet on some soil or on some grass, some real grass. Sit next to a tree, go by the water. You can also ground yourself with spiritual baths.
Zach was actually on our last EP that we did for the previous P-Funk Ball in 2022. which had, Standing on the Verge on it, Red Hot Mama, Alice in My Fantasies, all that stuff. So it was awesome.
How long have you guys been really into this whole funk movement, that second and third generation of it?
Yeah, so I've always liked the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and that's actually how me and Brad here got. When we were kids, we started playing Chili Peppers music, and then when we were kids, we found out that George Clinton had produced an album with them, and so we kind of got introduced to Funkadelic kind of through them in our own way, but we didn't have to really start learning how to play any of it until Tony Cam asked us to do that Funketeers ball in 2022.
Now think about this. Each and every person, think about how deep this is. When the male ejaculates, the sperm swims up, whatever, right? There's millions. So, and the brother was saying, young brother, he's like, he didn't feel like he was a winner. And I said, bro, you won the minute you touched that egg. And he was like, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, there were millions of sperm with you, and you were the one that made it. And he like, whoa, it just blew his mind because he never thought about it on a molecular level like that, right? And he said, wow. He said, tell me more. So I was telling him, that's the win. Because you wanted to live. You felt like you were better than everybody else, and you made it. You made it, right, to that egg. And once you get there, then, you, in your scientific, spiritual, godly, wisdom, said, you know what? I'm going to turn into something. And Bootsy Collins always says, or Patty always says, make something out of nothing. And when every one of you on this planet, if you ever felt that you are not a winner and you're not where you should be and you lost, I'm telling you, it's the wrong mindset. You already won. Out of the womb, you won. You're already a winner. How much love I was getting until I realized after about a month, you get out of that woe is me phase, and then you get into, okay, let's get it done phase. Mm-hmm. And that's when, people's like, hit me up. Everybody was hitting me up. And I was like, okay, I do matter to somebody. And I think that's important. Everybody watching, you got to know you matter. Yeah. You matter to somebody. You may not even know the impression you have on a person, Yeah. And so yeah, man, that's cool that he was able to pop in.
Or maybe it was 96 or 97, and they have these very specific ideas about what the mothership means. I said, I'm a musician. I went to school for history. I think it takes a philosopher to write a book like that, because everybody has these real transcendent ideas about what the mothership is. And,
true that.
So yep. I said, how about a 1975 book instead? And they said, okay, well, what does that look like? What does that mean? I said, well, Mothership Connection comes out at the end of 1975, but that's only a third of the story. You've got Chocolate City in April, changes the whole game. You got Let's Take It to the Stage also in April, changes the whole game again. Yeah. And then, they really set the stage for what happens in Mothership. And I said, and more importantly than that, 1975 is the only year where this band starts out in station wagons and ends up with platinum. That's the only year that's like that. Yeah, there is no other year, So I felt like that's the paradigm shift.
People that are always positive and that are aware of the sign of the times. I call them the dark energy drainers because they're out there. And beware, everybody. I'm telling you, just beware, man, because it's crazy. You ever notice, like, when hip hop became a straight government commodity, that it went into every single commercial?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because I can see that they seen what it was. That through the music, because if you know sound, and you know how to manipulate sound and frequencies, you know how to go right into certain parts of people's brains. and bring your message directly into them. And you know, with music, how it grabs you, and they know they can grab the youth with it and inject it with all this garbage, man. It's like it's just like I said, it's like a bad science fiction movie, man. Because they seem before they got involved, and we were doing music outside of the so-called industry,
you know, and we have to love ourselves too. So I just wanted to run that by real fast because you know, I almost forgot about it, and I wanted to do it last week, but I got it in this week. So all month, you know, it's Mental Health Awareness Month for men and women. So you know, it's important, you know, and we got a comment, you know, now with Orange Man in the house, there will be more mental health issues, and you know, you are absolutely right. With love and the algorithms and the actual tones and notes actually are designed to interact with our DNA.
Exactly.
And that's why we felt so good. That's why they had to stop it, because they realized they figured out a loophole. We've taken everything from them. We've stripped them from their rights. We've stripped them from their heritage. We've stripped them from their language. And they still figured out a way to feel good.
Yeah.
We have to take that away. That's why they did it. And I'm going to get to George's comment on the other side. But George brought up something very interesting, and I'm going to put it up. He said, and this is really cool, the record industry got nervous when people went independent and when social media came out. So they made reality TV talented bullshit shows. And that's all they are. Thank you, George. Because what they do, they're cheaper to make. And I just saw something on this the other day, a documentary.
The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement. Damn. He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments.
Really?
Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates.
Mm-hmm.
The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons.
Mm-hmm.
It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music.
The record industry and prisons being linked together, right? It's like, how do we get everybody on that page? Because a lot of people don't even know that. I talk to people a lot of times. I was like, are you aware that so-and-so owns prisons? And they're like, no, I never knew that. Everybody thinks the prisons are either federally or state run. That's not true. They're private.
Yeah, they're very private. They're private prisons, and it's a big industry. And they definitely, more and more people are recognizing that from what I've been seeing. But that's also the school to prison pipeline, which is part of what he was talking about. Because there's also an effort to get our school kids to fill up those prisons, because that's how they make their money.
It always does. That's just who she is. She's worked with Carl Bias, legendary DJ and producer from Chicago, and writer and singer. And she's on, her new label, A&O Records, putting an EP out that's coming in the spring, Treat Me Right, and the vinyl is This Is My House. So she definitely is embarking and doing things that she said she was going to do right on this show years ago. I remember, visionary, bold originator, and empress goddess, which she is. Oh my goodness, is revolutionizing the music industry with her blend of singing, songwriting, dancing, music production, DJing, sign language expression, art, and scholarship, infused with the dynamic theatrical personality that embodies the essence.
I just stopped by just to give a message of hope, a message of peace, because as a musician, we have an obligation to spread love. We have an obligation to at least let the people hear through our music that there is hope. Let the people around the world and around the nation know that when you hear the sounds, it's coming from the heart. And we're dealing with a lot of issues that perhaps our generation didn't think that we would ever see. I know my father and my mother and my grandparents, they saw these days and they struggled through it. But here, listen, those days are here now and we have to deal with it. But if we can just keep our heads together and hold on and keep our minds straight, better days are going to come.
Music brings people together. Always has, always will. It's like it's just the rhythm and movement of our lives. It's the soundtrack. Like without music, life would be very boring. There'd be no soundtrack to it. Certain songs bring you back to that day. You know what I'm saying? So for that moment,
certain songs bring you back to that day. We've actually got a exhibit up now at the center that is showing the history of the Blues Festival and their pictures back when I had black hair and everything like that on the beard and everything like that. So then was hosting, but yeah, those pictures, and there's like some people that were associated with funk that are in some of the pictures, because there's pictures of Isaac Hayes and Jerry Butler and folks like that played at the Blues Festival, and just going back and seeing those pictures and reflecting on those days, and hopefully they'll find a way to bring it back at some point or another. But yeah, you're right. It's the soundtrack of life, and sometimes, as I've said before, even listening to nature is a part of our world soundtrack.
A lot's been going on in the world before we get the Funkavinci in, but he just beamed me in a little something in my earpiece to tell me that Sir Nose was trying to funk with him. But we know Sir Nose is devoid of funk, so we can't let him mess with it. And I see my brothers back there now, ready to land in a minute. They're prepping the landing pad so we can get his ship in here. But mad shouts out to anybody that has a birthday today, or if you're having to deal with a transition of some sort, or if you have an anniversary, don't forget Funk from the Front Seat. We love you. And I hope you guys did get out and vote and do your best out there. I saw there was a little bit, happening. So that was good. And it's also, a few people that I know, just want to shout out, my nephew Patrick. I know he's dealing with some things in Virginia, and my dog up at DC Terry, of course, and shout out to the people of Kentucky. I know they had a tragedy. I might miss some tragedies because we're having them every day, so I'm trying to keep up with them, but I know that's got to be rough on that town and on those people. So all we can do is just try to keep it steady and keep the ship steady until we can land this aircraft and get some new people up in here that's gonna drive this thing right.
Yep, they're saying the new rules for Spotify for artists in 2025 and what they mean for you, and this was definitely just came out. So Spotify has changed again, but this time it's not about new interface or playlist algorithms. It's about how artists grow on the platform and who gets rewarded for doing things right. If you felt like Spotify growth has become more unpredictable lately, it's not your imagination. The platform has shifted to prioritize deeper engagement, smarter promotion, and long-term listener behavior. What worked in 2022 or even 2023 won't cut it in 2025. But if you understand the new rules, you can turn the chaos into clarity and the algorithm into your ally.
Nation under our groove, getting down just for the funk of it. One nation and we're on the move. Nothing can stop us now. One nation under our groove, getting down just for the funk of it. One nation, we're on the move. Nothing can stop us now. Do you promise to phone? Do you promise to phone?
you know, Afterglow 92416, and it was Boogie Monster's birthday last week, so we kind of honored him a little bit on social media, which was great. Q&A Entertainment, I love you, Oda. Brooke Clagett, my Funk Angel, thank you, Brooke, for all the stuff that you do. Patricia Diori, and of course our guest today, George and Curtis Wilcox, for all the great art. Dr. Brookenstein, DJ Cocolino, DJ Monica, and DJ Elizabetta. Love you guys in Ireland. You know, you got and
they've been pushed out, and they're so valuable, and we're going to recognize that. We're going to recognize that as a workforce and as economic drivers. The world can't. The world requires people who create, right? Everything that you see requires an artist, their hand to it. And to not show value, and that value is not, oh, that's nice. That value is we're going to put money to support the arts. We're going to support the arts in schools. We're going to support entrepreneurs who want to contribute those talents in corporate. I mean, there are so many ways in terms of looking to the arts and how we support. So I worked with North Carolina Arts Council, and that was my job. My job was to be able to receive applications, to look at work that was presented. Specifically, my world was dance, of course. But my colleagues had a very similar process. And immediately when I got it, I started to understand, oh, this is why we aren't receiving monies. This is why, oh, I didn't get that grant. And what I will say is, beginning and end, middle and end of the day, it is about who is in the room to review your work. It's very subjective. And so if you don't have someone fighting for you, right, then the chances of you getting that shot, and sometimes it has nothing to do with your ability and your talent. Because best believe, I went to a conference, and it was about selecting, and it was about musicians, it was about actors, it was about dancers, it was about all. And in that room, I was the only woman, and I was the only person of color.
Man, it's just all messed up, man. You know, it's like, you know, people depend upon our leader to support us and help us and keep us in well-being, you know. And man, and he's just pulling all that stuff off, man, just taking it away, man. Little kids not eating, you know.
Racist, well, you know, I like their music and I like this, but I'm still got my messed up beliefs. But I don't know, even changing them a little bit is something, you know.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
you're totally making sense, because we're getting comments. Dr. Brookenstein, our young people need to hold on. Sorry, my bad. Stop, Mark. I got it. Our young people need to be exposed to this good old funk music and some old school music instead of listening to this mumble junk rap.
Yeah.
And I'll add on to that a sexually explicit, exploiting women rap, talking about how many body counts they have rap, talking about all of the negative things that the Illuminati want to constantly push to our society to put us in even more of a rat race. Like Bob Marley said, I'm positive in a way that will help you further and reach your potential and your goals, because reaching your full potential and your goals is what the universe wants. Otherwise, you wouldn't be participating in this particular journey, in this dimension, on this planet.
Yeah.
So when you started doing this research and you did interviews, you had to travel, obviously.
Yep.
And I met Fred, too, for the first time in person last September.
Nice.
I went to a show in Charlotte. But you obviously, you put a lot of legwork into it. And you had to maintain a balance between touring your family, and writing the book. How
Yeah.
many years did it actually take you? What, 3, 4? Or you started this long
The
before the other book?
the first book took me 30 years. You know, it was like my whole life, you know, just collecting that information and you know, getting back to what you had said too about like leaving out all the other stuff. You know, when it comes to like recording this history, it's important that we understand that nobody else is going to do it. You know, like everybody could die and the time could pass and we won't have this stuff. So I'm trying to like record the cold hard facts.
Okay, well, we touched on a lot of things today. Juneteenth, especially in Rosewood and Tulsa, those are some serious things that our country has kind of tried to put to the side and not acknowledge, because I guess it's embarrassing to see how intensely negative they were about with Black people for so many years, and still kind of doing the same kind of things in different ways. Maybe not as violent or not as mass, but still giving us a hard time. And our kids need to know what's going on in the world and what has been done to their people over the years.
I'm telling you.
It's like, if we don't make this music now, we're wasting our journeys past. We had a pass. God gave you a pass, gave me a ticket. Said, listen, at this point in time, I want you to go down to this planet called Earth. You ain't gonna like it, but you need to do this. You need to do this thing for me. So that's where we are, right? That's where we are. You know? Tell us a little bit about one of your videos, you know, that we're getting ready to run. Billy Ray. I want to start with that one. We'll save the other one, your newest. But tell us a little bit about Billy Ray, how that came about.
Okay, well, Billy Ray, the music arrangement and were done by Kenneth Times and Lincoln Kilpatrick Jr. And I wrote the lyrics. The lyrics, I'm going to tell you something about Billy Ray. Billy Ray stands for systems, persons, and situationships that no longer serve you. And if you look at the video, when you see the video, you're going to see some images from our past, because I always want to honor my ancestors. My ancestors, number one, if it wasn't for them and for them dying and surviving through a time that we are most fortunate that we don't have to go through, you know, so you're going to see that in the background. That's why I wrote Billy Ray. For things that no longer serve us. It's time to, I've had enough. But listen to the lyrics. Listen to the lyrics.
And our ancestors, like you said, there was no quitting them to get us to this point. That's why no one should be quitting out there, no matter what you're doing. Don't quit, don't give up. Because if our ancestors endured what they endured to actually get over here, we need to step it up. You know, we
That's
really
right.
do. We really do. We can't. This is the beginning. We're at that end in the beginning cycle. So, Mark, you back there? Could you run Billy Ray for us, please, sir? Thank you. Appreciate you, man.
My days was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, things became chaotic.
Right.
Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun, and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd, and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague, who opened up the meeting earlier, hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking out about this publicly, or even those who attended the meeting.
So the problem is, when we don't make any money to support ourselves, we still push even harder, because for a lot of us, it's really not about the money, you know. And some of us, I've been blessed to do it and, you know, do what I do. So I'm very fortunate in a few different projects that actually, you know, we get paid. So, you know, but selling merchandise is a big part. So go to her site, buy a t-shirt, you know, a hat, something, you know, just to say, you know, it's cool. You know, we appreciate what you do with the music and the music scene here. It is growing. North Carolina's got a little different vibe to it, but it is growing. You know, and we'll see where it takes us. Oak City Music Collective, incredible management company. They're making sure that, you know, the venues are are responding to what we're putting out, and that's good to see. Of course, the Shikori Hills and the other festivals that they have in the area, they're always going to be there. So it's nice to see that this area is still sustaining itself in the music game, despite what other economic issues and woes that we may be going through, and that's something that I wanted to holler at you all about.
I'm telling you.
It's like, if we don't make this music now, we're wasting our journeys past. We had a pass. God gave you a pass, gave me a ticket. Said, listen, at this point in time, I want you to go down to this planet called Earth. You ain't gonna like it, but you need to do this. You need to do this thing for me. So that's where we are, right? That's where we are. Tell us a little bit about one of your videos, that we're getting ready to run. Billy Ray. I want to start with that one. We'll save the other one, your newest. But tell us a little bit about Billy Ray, how that came about.
Okay, well, Billy Ray, the music arrangement and were done by Kenneth Times and Lincoln Kilpatrick Jr. And I wrote the lyrics. The lyrics, I'm going to tell you something about Billy Ray. Billy Ray stands for systems, persons, and situationships that no longer serve you. And if you look at the video, when you see the video, you're going to see some images from our past, because I always want to honor my ancestors. My ancestors, number one, if it wasn't for them and for them dying and surviving through a time that we are most fortunate that we don't have to go through, so you're going to see that in the background. That's why I wrote Billy Ray. For things that no longer serve us, it's time to, I've had enough. But listen to the lyrics. Listen to the lyrics.
And our ancestors, like you said, there was no quitting them to get us to this point. That's why no one should be quitting out there, no matter what you're doing. Don't quit, don't give up. Because if our ancestors endured what they endured to actually get over here, we need to step it up.
That's right.
We really do. We can't. This is the beginning. We're at that end in the beginning cycle. So, Mark, you back there? Could you run Billy Ray for us, please, sir? Thank you. Appreciate you, man. And as well as your crew. Yeah. Who are some of the people lately that you've been working with? I know I see a lot of people. I don't know a lot of them, but can you share some short stories of some of the amazing people before we start running down some of your short clips you sent us?
Okay, so Ontaria Kim Wilson we actually worked together on the gospel adaptation of The Wiz, which was called The Gate Called Straight, which was directed by Stephanie Mills. I was one of the writers of the script and was tapped to be the director. What happened was LaShawn Pace was supposed to play a role, and Tyler Perry would not release her from her contract. Even though she wasn't doing anything at the time, he would not release her to come to Philadelphia until like 2 days before the premiere. So, the production team started scrambling. Bill Jolly, who was the musical director, said, well, I can reach out to Stephanie Mills and see if she would, take the role. So he did. And Stephanie said that she wasn't interested in acting anymore, but she would be interested in directing.
Right.
So they brought Stephanie in to direct, and they moved me to the role, which was like what was one of the biggest blessings. I actually was able to bring Sarah Dash from LaBelle in to play opposite me. So she played my mother. I was Mrs. Blocker, who was the equivalent of the Wicked Witch of the West. So, baby, it was an amazing experience.
You said in terms of other communities being able to come together and things being smooth, what is preventing us from coming together? And clarify that for me.
Yeah. Like, in other words, I know we're together, but a lot of times it's misinformation. Perfect example, right? Like when I find out there's something going on, it's usually word of mouth, and it's not put out there to where I could tell other people about it. I usually find out that same day, or Mark will tell me. It seems like we're not communicating. Seems like things are happening, but we're just not communicating in a way to where everybody is like, okay, this Thursday, I need everybody over here. Or this Friday, I need everybody over here because this is affecting our entire community. Because when I was coming to the event I saw you at, I was telling people about it, and they was like, well, I didn't hear anything about it. That kind of thing. And I don't know if it's social media, I'm just curious.
So I think it's action, it's choice, is choice and action.
But they were just red hot for the groove and the sounds and the sights and all the things that go into kind of laying it out there, because we all descended from Bootsy and George and them, George and all his people, Bootsy and all his people, and all the funk bands, Zap, you name them. We all descended from that. That's why when I was at the festival, I was telling, there was a part where I was saying, and we're going to actually do a documentary on both of these and our trip and document everything.
But that's one of the things I wanted, and it's probably one of the reasons why I haven't been able to put a band together for years, because it is hard to find people to commit to that kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
To give it all up, to spend the time to do it. Because here's the thing, I don't know if this is to my advantage or detriment, but I grew up playing classical music, classical guitar. So with classical music, there's just a certain discipline. You have to practice. You don't get to feel the music a lot because the feelings are written on the sheet for you. When to rise, when to decrescendo, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to bring a part of that to the band, that we had to practice the music, practice the kinks, spend the time, loop mistakes over and over, just play it over and over till you're not thinking about it anymore. And that's what I have not been able to find. And as we get older and we have more responsibilities, it's hard to get people to say, listen, man, take off work or whatever, and let's spend a day and kill time doing this. It's just not the same. So
they're talking about the 1921 Tulsa Race Riot, or as many know it, the Tulsa Race Massacre.
This was our nation's worst race riot.
Michelle Brown is with the Greenwood Cultural Center. Her office sits on the very spot where nearly 40 acres of vibrant, prosperous property was destroyed, and at least 300 innocent African Americans were senselessly killed. It's a repulsive, violent act that is still affecting lives today.
Having not received any type of reparations, just now being at a point where we are truly acknowledging this history, there's a lot of historical trauma that they are experiencing.
Dr. Carlos Hill teaches African and African American studies at the University of Oklahoma.
What had been one of the wealthiest communities, most educated communities, most peaceful communities in the country was destroyed in less than 18 hours.
The hatred overflowed on May 31st, 1921, after a young black man named Dick Rowland entered the Drexel building in downtown Tulsa and stepped aboard an elevator being operated by a white woman named Sarah Page.
Dick Rowland walks into the elevator, Sarah Page is there, the elevator door closes, there's a scream, the door opens again, and she runs out.
Within hours, Rowland had been accused of assault, even rape. He's arrested and placed in the city's jail. Newspapers in town begin to run their version of the story.
They're really trying really, really hard, but it just seems like it's a slower process because people move slower in the South. And that's always the issue that I have. It's not like we're not getting it done. It's just that the pace that it's on, we're in a race with a dude that's trying to erase us. So it's like we're like, okay, we got to keep up because this dude is literally going through the landscape, just chopping everything in sight. It's funny, like unless you were there, it's hard for us to explain to people what that area was like. You had CBGBs, Rolling Stones walking around in there, Discovering Living Color. You had the wetlands. Everybody was there. Then you had Izzy Bar, Club Life, the Elbow Room,
yes,
the Red Lion, the Lion's Den.
New Music Cafe.
Yes.
Do you remember Gonzalez? right on
No.
Broadway. Gonzalez Gonzalez was this Mexican restaurant, but they had entertainment in the back, and a lot of bands played there. So it was right on Broadway, very close, just before you get to Houston Street,
Right,
going
right,
south.
right.
There were just so many places. You know, the thing about going back just a few seconds to what you were saying, New York made me feel like an artist. But that's one of the things I wanted, and it's probably one of the reasons why I haven't been able to put a band together for years, because it is hard to find people to commit to that kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
You know, to give it all up, to spend the time to do it. Because here's the thing, I don't know if this is to my advantage or detriment, but I grew up playing classical music, classical guitar. So with classical music, there's just a certain discipline. You have to practice. You know, you don't get to feel the music a lot because the feelings are written on the sheet for you. When to rise, when to decrescendo, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to bring a part of that to the band, that we had to practice the music, practice the kinks, spend the time, loop mistakes over and over, just play it over and over till you're not thinking about it anymore. And that's what I have not been able to find. And as we get older and we have more responsibilities, it's hard to get people to say, listen, man, take off work or whatever, and let's spend a day and kill time doing this. It's just not the same. So,
Cause I'm throwing out this flag on the phone. You better sleep your deadbeat back to the two-pump jump and hang your head, cause I'm throwing out this flag on the phone. We're coming from the nappy land. Flag on. I make my runs about the break of day. They call me backdoor Santa. I make my runs about the break of day. Oh, oh, oh. I make all the little girls happy while the boys are out to play. Look at him. I ain't like old Saint Nick. He don't come but once a year. Oh, 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 oh. I ain't like old Saint Nick. He don't come but once a year. But look at him. I come running with my presence every time you call me dear. Look at here. I keep some change in my pocket in case the children at home. I give them a few pennies so that we can be alone. I leave the back door open so if anybody smells a mouse, and with no scent I'll be in trouble. If ain't no chimney in the house, they call me back door Santa. I make my runs about the break of day. Look at here. I make all the little girls happy while the boys are out to play. That's what they call me, backdoor Santa. That's what they call me. They call me backdoor Santa. That's what all the girls call me. I give them all the presents. That's what they call me. They call me backdoor Santa. And I like from the call me that. They call me backdoor Santa.
Our side for us, and tell us a little bit about the writing process and the song itself.
Yeah, so I that song I think has a really like important message to it. I wrote it in 2020 kind of in response to all the George Floyd protests,
Yeah.
and I felt very like helpless, and like I wanted to like do something about it, and like the only thing I can do is make music. So that was kind of me getting out my frustration and putting on paper how I felt about that, and I tried to make it universal enough to where it can be true for a lot of different scenarios, and it
Oh,
has
yeah. Yes,
ranked
it is.
true for a lot of different things throughout
Even
the
today.
years.
Yep.
Yeah, so so in like that mixtape that I told you about, I did that as like I wanted to fundraise for the somehow. And so I made this album, and I was like, all the proceeds from this album are going to the Minnesota Freedom Fund at the time. So whatever we made on Bandcamp and stuff, I sent there. It wasn't a ton of money, but it was more, I'm glad that I got to say how I felt about that through music. And Our Side was also written during that time. And it kind of is about just kind of being frustrated with the state of things and how the people who are supposed to protect us don't do that, and in fact are the ones that hurt us the most sometimes. But at the same time, I think it's really important to have hope for the future, and not just let all of that bog you down, because that's exactly what those people want to happen, is for us to lose hope. And so maintaining that